Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, November 11th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college football games and look ahead to today's games. It's all action. KBO playoffs, I'll give you an update on that. My NFL power rankings for the week, and the theme of the week's best win, worst loss. And then we'll discuss some NBA news, preview tonight's episode of The Masked Singer, and my best bet for the day. All right, first we'll do college football. Like I mentioned at the top, all action. 3 games last night, 3 games tonight. So, without further ado, here we go. Ohio over Akron, 24-20. Ohio's 1-1. Akron is 0-2. My pick for this game was, I want to say I took the under, and that obviously hit. Kent State over Bowling Green, 62-24, so Kent State went over the total by himself. They're 2-0, Bowling Green is 0-2, so that was a pick I got wrong. And the Buffalo creams Miami of Ohio, 42-10, so best bet went wrong. Buffalo 2-0, Miami of Ohio sitting there at 1-1. Alrighty, 3 games tonight. As I mentioned earlier, all action again. First up, we got Eastern Michigan against Ball State. Eastern Michigan is getting 8.5, total 61.5. I project Ball State by 1.5, total 59.5. I'm going to take Eastern Michigan in the points. I just think that's a lot. Eastern Michigan's not that terrible. I just think that they'll keep it within the number. I think Ball State will win the game, but I think Eastern Michigan will cover that 8.5 number. Toledo and Western Michigan, I project Toledo minus 1.5, total 56, and it is Western Michigan 2.5, total 57.5. I'm going to take Toledo plus the 2.5 and then plus 114 straight up. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to take them straight up or not. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I like this Toledo team. I think they're really good. I think that this is the best game on the slate of the MAC this week, that's for sure. And so I'm going to roll with the Rockets getting the 2.5, and then I'll stab the plus 114 on the money line. And then, last but not least, Central Michigan against Northern Illinois. Central Michigan giving 9.5 on the road, total 58.5. I project Central Michigan by 4, total 56.5. So the totals I've been pretty close on, but I have the edges on the numbers this week. I'm going to take Northern Illinois again, getting the 9.5. I know it didn't work out for me last week against Buffalo. I think maybe it could work out this week against Central Michigan. I just think that, like in the Eastern Ball State, I think this is a competitive game. I expect Central Michigan to win, but I think Northern Illinois will cover the number as Central Michigan, the Chippewas, will win the game by a touchdown. So give me Northern Illinois getting 9.5 in that spot. Now we'll do a little KBO playoffs from the last couple days as they are in their little pre-playoff round. So it's Doosan and KT that just played yesterday. Doosan over KT 4-1 as they could take a 2-0 series lead. Impressive for Doosan. I thought KT would win this in 5 games, but it looks like that Doosan will get it done. Tomorrow, 4:30 a.m. is Game 3 between the two clubs. I'm going to take KT to at least, even though Doosan's home. I just think this series should be closer than what it is. Doosan won by 1 run on Monday, and yesterday they won by 3. So give me KT on the road to make the series a little bit more interesting and force a Game 4. I'm going to see if there's a line out for it, and there's not any lines for KBO. The only baseball stuff they have right now is futures for Major League Baseball in 2021. So give me KT to force a game 4. Now I'm going to make my pick for the Masters. Something I forgot to include at the Open. I'm going to go to DraftKings for this because DraftKings has much better odds for golf than FanDuel. So Bryson DeChambeau is the favorite, plus 750. Dustin Johnson is 850. John Rahm is plus 1050. Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, 13-1. Xander Schauffele, 16-1. Brooks Koepka, 17-1. Tyrrell Hatton, 25-1. Patrick Cantlay, 28-1. Jason Day, Hideki Matsuyama, Patrick Reed, all 30-1. Tony Finau, Bubba Watson, 33-1. Colin Morikawa, 35-1. Webb Simpson, 40-1. Matthew Wolff, Tiger Woods, 45-1. Adam Scott is 50-1. Tommy Fleetwood's 55-1. Lewis Olson, 60-1. Matthew Fitzpatrick, Scotty Scheffler, 66-1. Cam Champ, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, all 70-1. Paul Casey, Shane Lowry, Ian Poulter, Justin Rose, all 80-1. Jason Kokrak, Cam Smith, 90-1. Sungjae Im, Lee Westwood, 100-1. And then other notables. Abraham Ancer's 125-1, so is Zach Johnson. Phil Mickelson's 125-1. Billy Horschel's 150-1. Kevin Na's 200-1. Brendan Todd's 200-1. Gary Woodland 200-1. That's crazy value. Adam Hadwin's 250-1. JT Potson's 250-1. Lucas Glover 350-1, which is crazy. CT Pond 750-1. Ches Reeves 500-1. Tyler Duncan 750-1. But yeah, there are some names on here that have crazy, crazy odds. But for my pick for the Masters, I'm going to go with a golfer that really has been good to me this year. And in other betting scenarios. I think he's one of the best golfers in the world. He's gone through some stuff this year too, but I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder and prove to everybody that he still is an elite golfer today, and that is Brooks Koepka at 17-1. I just like the value. I think Koepka should be more like 10-1 or 12-1, but I really like the 17-1 for Brooks Koepka to win the 2020 Masters, which in a normal year would be in April. But nope, it's in November this year due to COVID-19. Hopefully next year it's back to the spring. So give me Brooks Koepka at 17-1 to win the 2020 Masters. Now I'm going to do my NFL power rankings for the week. As I mentioned at the top, the theme of the week is best win, worst loss. I do that sometimes on my podcast for the other sports. I think I did it in the NFL a couple years ago. So without further ado, here we go. Number 32, the New York Jets. NA for best win. I mean, it would have been home New England had they held on, but no. They don't have a win, so best win, not available. Worst loss. I'm going to say home for San Francisco. That was the game where like every Niners player got injured. And they just played terribly in that game. And Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Bosa, Raheem Mostert, literally everybody got hurt in that game. And the Jets and Sam Darnold didn't take advantage of that. Number 31, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their best win was their only win of the year, home for Indianapolis. That got everybody excited. Hey, maybe they're not tanking. Yeah, not so fast. Their worst loss, I'm going to say home Detroit. There's a lot of people that thought the Jaguars had a shot in that game. And looking back, that's really a bad loss because the Lions are not a good team. And that game got everybody excited for the Lions. Number 30, the Washington professional football team. Their best win of the year. Home Philly. That was the game where Ron Rivera and the team rallied from 17 down against the Eagles to win. And then their only other win was against the Dallas Cowboys with everybody injured. So I had to go with this Philly game. Number 29, the New York Football Giants. Their best win at Washington. They really was only two options for that. At Washington or home Washington. I just had to go with at Washington because they probably should have lost the home Washington game, but Ron Rivera went for 2 and didn't get it. So that was more like a gift-wrapped game to them. I mean, you could argue that Sunday's game was gift-wrapped too, but their defense stepped up, and their defense really didn't step up other than getting the stop on the 2-point conversion against Washington at home. And Alex Smith is better than Kyle Allen. That's the other factor in this. So that's why I say the at Washington's better. And plus, Daniel Jones played better in the game at Washington than he did in the home Washington game. So that's the other case for at Washington for the better Giant win. And their worst loss, I'm sorry, just like the Jets, home San Francisco, everybody injured. And that's the worst game the Giants played all year. They're 2-7, but they've been in every game with the exception of the home San Francisco game where they got their butts whooped by the 49ers JV team. Number 28, the Dallas Cowboys. Their best win, home Atlanta. That was the game where Atlanta gift-wrapped it to them pretty much. I'm not giving them the home Giants as their best win because that was the game Dak Prescott got injured. Although it was nice to see that the team rallied from that, but Atlanta's better than the Giants. That's why they get that win. Although Atlanta, the onside kick, Dallas got lucky there. But as I mentioned, Atlanta's better than the Giants. So and the case against that, obviously, is Atlanta finds ways to lose, which they always do. But Atlanta's a good offense, and then credit Dallas for rallying back to put them in that situation. And worst loss at Washington, you shouldn't be losing to the Washington professional football team. Like, that was just a disgraceful performance, even though it wasn't Dak Prescott, it was Andy Dalton. But that was just a terrible game. Everybody and their brother just thought that that would be a close game and that they had a shot to win. But no. Number 27, the Cincinnati Bengals. Their best win, home Tennessee. That was just very impressive. Joe Burrow really played his best game against a good team, although Tennessee's defense stinks, but that was just a good win, period. Worst loss at Baltimore. That was the worst game Joe Burrow's ever played. That was a no-show by them. And the Ravens didn't play particularly well in that game, which made it worse. Number 26, the New England Patriots. Their best win, home versus Las Vegas. That's a good win, guys. Las Vegas isn't a bad team. So that's a pretty good win for the Patriots now looking back. And in worst loss, again, just like the Giants and the Jets, home San Francisco. Granted, San Francisco was healthier at the time, but that was just a disgraceful of a performance. They were favored in that game. Granted, the Niners were favored against the two New York teams, respectively, but the Patriots were favored against the Niners, and they got their asses kicked by them. That was just a disgrace of a loss, and that really was like a aha moment for New England. And other than that, New England has been in all their games. Like their Seattle loss, they were in that game. Buffalo, they were in that game. Number 25, the Houston Texans. Their best win, they're them like the Giants, beat the same team twice, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I decided to go with their home win against Jacksonville rather than their road win because they almost lost that game at Jacksonville. And their defense played better against the better quarterback in Gardner Minshew. So I'll give them that for their best win, the home Jacksonville. The worst loss, I'm going to say home Minnesota. I just think that, the Texans have played some good teams and lost to some good teams like Tennessee and Baltimore, KC, Pittsburgh. Those are all good teams. Minnesota might actually be good too. And one of their other losses was Green Bay, who's also good. So the worst team they played in defeat was the Vikings. So that's no disrespect to Minnesota. It's just that the other teams they played are all better than the Vikings that they lost to. Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Tennessee, and then obviously Minnesota was their 6th loss, and then the 2 wins they had were both against Jacksonville, and they're 2-6. So by default, home Vikings was the answer, and at the time the Vikings were winless. Number 24, the Los Angeles Chargers. Their best win, there's 2 candidates for that, but I have to go with home Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Bengals are better than Jacksonville, but they should have lost to the Bengals. The Bengals gave that game away, and Tyrod Taylor played and not Justin Herbert, so I'm sorry. I had to go with versus Jacksonville. Gardner Minshew was actually decent in that game. The Charger defense has been disappointing this year. I mean, part of it's due to the injuries to Joey Bosa and Derwin James, but Justin Herbert really carried them in that Jacksonville game. So I got to give it that. And then their worst loss at Denver, that's the game they had. And then it came down to the last play and they lost. Number 23, the Detroit Lions. Their best win at Arizona, if there wasn't any doubt. Obviously, this is their best win. Arizona's a good team, so that has to be it. And worst loss, I'm going to go with home Bears on opening week. I almost went with home Colts because they got their butts kicked, but I think the Colts are better than the Bears. That's what it came down to for me. And they should have beaten the Bears. What makes that worse is that it was Mitch Trubisky, not Nick Foles. So that's another reason why I had to pick home Bears for worst loss. And plus, DeAndre Swift should have caught that ball. Number 22, the Denver Broncos. Their best win, home Chargers. That was a really impressive comeback for Drew Lock. We just talked about the Charger side of it, but Drew Lock really showed me something in that game. I know at New England was it looked like a good win, but really it doesn't look that great, to be quite honest. And then Denver's other win was at the Jets, so it has to be home Chargers. And then their worst loss, I'm going to say, versus the Chiefs at home. They got their butts kicked by a division rival. Granted, Patrick Mahomes. And that was on a game where Patrick Mahomes wasn't the Patrick Mahomes that we know and love. It's just getting your ass kicked by a division rival is not good. Number 21, the Carolina Panthers. Their best win, home Arizona. And that was without Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that win looked really good. And in worst loss, home Bears. That's just not a good loss. I mean, they've lost to some good teams. They lost to Vegas, who's a good team. They've lost to the Saints, who's a good team. Home Falcons was a bad loss, too. I forgot about that. That was a Thursday night game that they nearly came from behind and won. But they just, I don't think, played that great in really either game. But I just went with the home Bears game because they were favored in that game. Although they were favored against the Falcons, too. So you could argue home Falcons for Thursday Night Football was a bad loss, too. But to me, the Atlanta betting line was lower than the Chicago betting line. So that's what it came down to for me. Number 20, the Atlanta Falcons. Speaking of the Falcons, their best win at Minnesota. They just kicked the Vikings' ass that day, and they didn't blow it. Worst loss at Dallas. Obviously the botched onside kick, and then Dallas survives, and then now Dallas is a bad team, so that's what makes that loss even worse. Number 19, the Minnesota Vikings. Their best win at Green Bay. That was just a really good win against a division rival. And worst loss, home Atlanta. We talked about it from the Atlanta perspective. But Minnesota, that was just an unacceptable, inexcusable loss against a Falcon team that at the time was winless. Number 48, the San Francisco 49ers. Best win, I'm going to say home Rams. You could argue at New England, but New England, as we know right now, isn't the New England of old. So we go home Rams in a game where everybody thought the Rams were going to win. And they were short-handed in that game too, San Francisco. And worst loss, home Miami. That was the game. And that really should have been the game where it dawned on people that Miami was good, quite frankly. But that was a bad performance, and Jimmy Garoppolo was benched in that game. Number 17, the Cleveland Browns. Their best win at Cincinnati. I picked this because of the circumstances. I know you could argue home Cincinnati, Thursday Night Football. But I'm going to say at Cincinnati was the better win because they lose Odell Beckham Jr. and they rally around the situation. Baker Mayfield played his best game of the year and one of the best games of his career in that game. So I went with the at Bengals rather than home Bengals. And then their other wins were home Indy, which was a decent win, but not a wow win. And then the other win, if I'm not mistaken, was trying to think of who the Browns' other win was against. I'll think of it. Worst loss at the Ravens. That was week 1, where they got their ass kicked. Baker Mayfield was terrible in that game. And then the at Pittsburgh game, Baker got injured in, so I can't pick at Pittsburgh. So at Baltimore, I think is a worse loss. Plus Pittsburgh's undefeated too. Number 16, the Las Vegas Raiders. Their best win for me is at KC. Beating the Super Bowl champs on their home turf automatically becomes your best win. Worst loss at New England. Now looking back, that's just a bad loss. New England's 3-5. Number 15, the Philadelphia Eagles. Their best win at San Francisco. I really can't pick home Cowboys or home Giants because they're NFC East teams and they're bottom 5 teams. So at San Francisco, best win. They came from behind and won that game. And worst loss, and they were a huge underdog in that game too against San Francisco, and I thought Philly should have been favored. And worst loss at Washington, that was week 1. Shouldn't be losing to Washington, I'm sorry. Number 14, the Chicago Bears, best win, home Bucks. If you beat Tom Brady, automatic best win. I know Tom Brady screwed up at the end of that game, but it's not a guarantee that the Bucks win that game. So I'm going to give that, for me, would be the best win for the Bears. And their other wins aren't that great. Lions, Giants, Panthers. I know the Bucks obviously stands out as their best one. And I don't remember who their other win was against. And then worst loss at the Rams. That was Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago when Aaron Donald just destroyed them. Number 13, speaking of, the Los Angeles Rams. They're number 13. Their best win at Philadelphia. Philly's just, I think, going to win the NFC East. I'm higher on Philly than most. I think that injuries derailed them early on in the year, or else they'd be over 500. Now it's just an impressive performance by them on the road. Granted, no fans there. And worst loss at San Francisco. I talked about it from a San Francisco perspective just a couple minutes ago. But they just played terribly in that game, and everybody expected them to win that game, too. I mean, you could argue at Miami for worst loss, but Miami's actually pretty good. And we'll get to them eventually. Number 12, the Arizona Cardinals. Best win, home Seattle, beating Russell Wilson, the Seahawks at home. Very impressive. Worst loss at Carolina. And what makes that loss bad is no Christian McCaffrey. Number 11, the Miami Dolphins. Speaking of them, best win just this past Sunday at Arizona. That was just as impressive of a win you can have on the road. Tua was very good, and that's what's important about that game for Miami. And worst loss at New England, that was week 1. with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he looked terrible in that game. Number 10, the Tennessee Titans. Best win, home Buffalo. I mean, was there really any other choice for this? Their first game post their COVID outbreak, and they go out and kick ass on national TV. That, to me, was very impressive, and plus the Bills are a good team. Worst loss at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just a bad defensive team, and somehow the Titans couldn't take advantage. Number 9, the Indianapolis Colts. Best win at Detroit. That was just an ass-kicking performance by the Colts. Granted, the Lions are not that special. And worst loss at Jacksonville. That was week 1. Phillip Rivers just kept turning the ball over in that game, and that came back to bite him. Number 8, the Seattle Seahawks. Best win at Miami. I know that's a weird pick for best win. I know they have a couple other good wins, like home New England was a game that everybody remembers. That was on Sunday Night Football, but New England's not good. Home Dallas. Dallas isn't good. Granted, that was with Dak, so you could argue that one for best win. Home San Francisco. San Francisco had all the injuries. Home against, then another home win against somebody. I'm trying to think of who it was against. Oh, Minnesota. It's on Sunday Night Football. Everyone's saying, that win looks better now than it did at the time because Minnesota has won a couple games in a row. So, you could argue that, but I'm going to go with at Miami because that was a game that Miami kind of was in, and Seattle really put them away. And worst loss at Buffalo. Their defense was inexplicably bad, and Russell Wilson turned the ball over 4 times in that game. And they still put up 34 points. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Best win, home Green Bay. That was just an ass-kicking against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Worst loss this past Sunday at home against New Orleans. Inexplicable, putting up only 3 points against the Saints. And their defense isn't special. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. Best win at Indianapolis. That was just a good performance by the Ravens. Their defense stepped up. And their other wins really aren't all that impressive. Worst loss, home Kansas City. Everybody had them winning that game. They were favored in prime time. That was just a bad performance for the Ravens against the Chiefs. They could have beaten the Steelers, so I didn't pick that one for worst loss. So instead I'm going to go with home KC. 5, the Buffalo Bills. Best win this past Sunday at home for Seattle. Just an ass-kicking performance by Josh Allen and the Bills. You could have gone home Rams, but they should have lost that game. I'm going to go home Seattle here because they put them away and it was impressive. And picking off Russell Wilson 4 times is impressive as well. Worst loss at Tennessee. Talked about it from a Tennessee perspective earlier. The Bills just got their ass kicked by the Titans in their first game post-COVID outbreak. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers. Best win at New Orleans. That was impressive on Sunday Night Football. And they were down Devontae Adams in that game. And worst loss at Tampa Bay where they got their butts kicked. 3, New Orleans Saints. Best win at Tampa Bay on Sunday night. That was just an ass-kicking from Drew Brees and company. Worst loss at Las Vegas. That isn't a bad loss per se because Las Vegas is actually pretty good, but it was either that game or home Green Bay. And I think that Green Bay's better than Las Vegas. That's what it comes down to for me. Number 2, the KC Chiefs. Best win at the Ravens on Monday Night Football. That was just an ass-kicking game as Mahomes was an underdog, which was stupid. Worst loss, home, Las Vegas. That was their only loss. Pittsburgh, number 1. Best win at the Ravens division rival game, and they were a dog. And you could argue that Tennessee, too, for best win, but I'm going to go with that Ravens for that one because of the stakes, and then it's a division game, and an NA for worst loss because they're undefeated. And there you have it for my power rankings for week number 10. Now I'm going to discuss the fact that the NBA is officially back. Adrian Wojnarowski reported last night that the NBA Board of Governors call was unanimous as the CBA was agreed upon. So that is great news. It was all unanimous. And so the draft is a week from today. And the free agency starts 48 hours later, Friday night at 6 o'clock p.m. So it's going to be really fun following the off season. I did my predictions on the podcast a couple weeks ago, right after the NBA season ended. So it's going to be a fun-filled summer. Some storylines to keep an eye out for. The biggest name that I think could be traded, Chris Paul. I think that the Suns are absolutely in play, as Woj reported last night that the Suns and the Thunder engaged on trade talks. Maybe Russell Westbrook could be a name on the move. We've heard that. Paul George. Not Anthony Davis, so I think it's fair to say that he's definitely going to be re-signing with the Lakers after they won the championship. So it's going to be a fun summer, as the NBA summers are always fun. It's the best free agency, arguably, in sports that are Major League Baseball, you could argue. And the NFL sometimes has fun ones, too. I know the one year we had a fun one because there's a bunch of trades, and then all the free agent signings started to happen. There had to been like 5 or 6 years ago. I believe it was the year the Eagles traded away Nick Foles to the Rams, and then they traded away LaShawn McCoy, and they signed DeMarco Murray. That was 2015, I want to say. So 5 years ago. So, yeah. NBA free agency starts next Friday. We'll talk about it more as it gets closer. And then from a draft standpoint, we'll do another mock draft tomorrow, since today's activity was the power rankings for the NFL. And plus we had Masters to talk about as well. Now we'll preview tonight's episode of The Masked Singer. Now we're going to see some characters from the previous groups, Group A and Group B, as it's the Group A finals. So it's just Group A. So the final 3 singers sing from Group A, and then the 2 that are left go to the Super 6. So they're having the Super 6 again. Oh, it's the Super 9 last time. Now it's going to be the Super 6. I thought it was the Super 6. But I guess they did eventually come down to the Super 6. So Group A, who's left? So you got the Snow Owls. You got the Popcorn. And you got the Sun. So 3 very talented contestants tonight going for the battle. And I wonder if there's going to be a SmackDown, because we have not seen that yet this season. So, because there's time to be filled in this episode. So, we'll talk about every character that's left. So, the Popcorn, so her clues were, like, snacks in the city. So, maybe that's a reference to Sex in the City. There's a laptop. There was Meatloaf. Maybe it's somebody from that band. There was a merry-go-round, and it said Mary, as in Proud Mary. That had me thinking one Tina Turner. And then in the third episode, which was the second Group A week, there was a hospital in there. So this could be somebody that was involved within nursing. LGBTQ. So rainbows of found voice. She said, I survive. And that had me thinking one Gloria Gaynor. And by the way, she sang Falling by Harry Styles in the second Group A episode, and then the premiere episode, she sang What About Us by Pink. So, my guess, as of right now for popcorn, I'm going to go with the legendary Gloria Gaynor. And that would be a wonderful get for The Masked Singer if popcorn turns out to be her. If it's Tina Turner, that'd be great. Maybe it's Donna Summer, Anita Baker, Laura Branigan, Cyndi Lauper. If it's somebody like that, that would be a major win for the franchise. The Snow Owls. The first of the two Group A episodes, they hinted about a reunion that they haven't seen each other in a while. There was a red rose egging on her. That could be a movie reference. Let It Snow. Maybe it's a hint at Christmas movies. Magnolia. They jam a lot, so maybe this is a pair that jams out a lot, and then there's a coach in there. The first song they sang was Say Something by A Great Big World. And then the third episode, which was the second Group A episode, there was a D. They hinted about being there for each other. There was a messy breakup, so maybe it was a show that these two were involved in and they broke up in the show. There's an anchor. Maybe one of these people is a news anchor. And then they performed Like I'm Gonna Lose You by Meghan Trainor featuring John Legend in the second of the two Group A episodes. My guess as of right now, I'm going to go with Idina Menzel and Joel Grey because the drone clue was a witch hat. And I think that is a reference to Wicked. So I'm going to go with Idina Menzel and Joel Grey as of now. But obviously, my guesses are going to change as the show goes on tonight. And then last but not least, The Sun, who I think is the best contestant of Group A. She's wonderful. I'd be shocked if she went home tonight, quite frankly. The first episode, there were hints about a beach, the pool, and then, like, the world. And then, like, there was, like, outer space, and then the world turned into Mickey Mouse here. So that's obviously a hint towards Disney. Ray of Light. That's a song by Madonna, but it's not Madonna. As Ken Jeong guessed. No shot. Yellow Heart. Maybe this is somebody that likes the color yellow. Frozen. That had people thinking Idina Menzel. And then she performed 'Cause I Love You. And my guess as of right now, because of the falsetto she brought and just the vocals, Christina Aguilera. I know it's crazy, but she was involved in Disney when she was younger. And I know she's on The Voice right now, but we've seen people double down and do two shows at the same time. Like Donny Osmond in season 1 was doing Masked Singer and his show in Vegas with his sister Marie. So I'm just going to go with the bold guess of one, Christina Aguilera. And then, by the way, in the other episode, there was a blue butterfly, a white heart, ugly rumor sign. There were woods that had people thinking Carrie Underwood. But I think Carrie Underwood could very well be another character on this show. And then her drone clue was the 8-ball. Like the 8-ball as like the magic 8-ball. But I'm going to stick with my bones and go with Christina Aguilera. And my prediction of who goes home tonight, I'm going to say that Popcorn goes home tonight, and it's unfortunate because Popcorn's very good. This is a great trio, and it's unfortunate that one of these singers isn't going to be in the Super Six. Like, you're going to have two mediocre singers from Group C in the Super Six and not tonight's loser. And same thing we said about Group B. Group B is down to Crocodile, Serpent, Seahorse, and the whatchamacallit. And then Group C, we're down to the mushroom, the jellyfish, and broccoli. Like, broccoli does not belong in the Super Six. No offense to broccoli. Like, these three singers are better than jellyfish. So, like, Group A is just loaded. And this is going to be a great show. So, I think you're going to see a big name get unmasked tonight. Just like last week, we saw a big name go home, and that was Bob Saget. So, and I think there's a chance this is a bigger celebrity than Bob Saget. And Bob Saget's a big freaking name. Obviously, Full House, America's Funniest Home Videos, Fuller House. So, it's going to be interesting to see who goes home. And I'm going to say it's Popcorn. I don't feel good about it because I think there's a chance that the Snow Owls go home. But I think they want to see the Snow Owls another week because they're a duo. So I'm going to say Popcorn goes home, and it's close. And it turns out to be Gloria Gaynor. Alrighty. Last but not least, my best bet of the day. Brought to you by Sugar House. I had a terrible best bet yesterday by taking Miami of Ohio, getting all those points. So, for today, I am going to go with Eastern Michigan getting all those points against Ball State. I have a bigger edge on them than I do on Northern Illinois, so that's what it comes down to for me. So I'm going to go with Eastern Michigan plus the 9 against Ball State. All right, that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the MACtion games and looking ahead to tomorrow's college football game between Boise State and Colorado State. Thursday Night Football, preview and predict that game between the Titans and the Colts. We'll have another NBA mock draft, and we'll recap The Masked Singer and any other news in sports and pop culture. I'll have it for you as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.